Let me take just a minute and talk a little bit about how we come up with some of these numbers. One way you can come up with these numbers is just come in the system and tell it that, hey, I want to brew. On such and such a day, I'm going to be brewing some wort, and I'm going to create 50 barrels as an example. And that's probably kind of the way you're doing it today. I mean, you're just kind of dropping something on the schedule and say, okay, I'm going to brew on this date, then I can go and add a fermentation to it, etc. There's nothing wrong with doing that. That's a very manual process of adding something to the calendar. You will definitely be doing that when you start doing one-offs and your first time for seasonals and things like that. This is a very easy way to add something to the calendar. Now, for some of your flagships, for the things that you're wanting the system to help you schedule with, there's actually an MRP process that runs either on schedule or on demand. And so I'll just open up the regeneration real quick. There's just a regeneration that basically says, go run the process. And that process that we're talking about can either be initiated by me pressing the regenerate now, or I can apply a time and a date, and it'll start at like 2 a.m. every day. What it's doing is going and reading a bunch of data in my system. When I say a bunch of data, I mean sales orders, purchase orders, inventory, safety stocks, forecasts. It's reading all that data and determining when I'm going to be short of inventory. And when I'm going to be short of inventory, it creates what's called a planned order. It's a suggestion to make something. Now, without spending a huge amount of time kind of moving my dates around, let me just talk a little bit about what's going on here. First off, what we're looking at as the rows are the products that are being produced. And I've got a packaging process that's happening at the bottom, I've got a fermentation process happening in the middle, and I've got a brewing process happening at the top. They are all tied together. So wort gets used to make bright, which gets used to make packaged. And the system understands that just by looking at inventory items. The other thing I wanted to point out here is the dates. These are, you see a bunch of individual days, and then you'll start seeing, if I were to scroll over to the right, you'll see I switch over to weeks, and then I eventually switch over to months. The idea is the closer I am today, the more granular I want to look at things, the further out I am, the more summarized I want to see things. And that's actually controllable by you. There's a configuration setting here that you can control and just move this around to kind of make it the way you want to see it. I can also filter out certain pieces if I wanted to do that. I don't really need to worry about that at the moment. So I can look at only certain fermenters or only certain styles of beer, etc. and so on if I wanted to do that. The point I want to make here is there is a relationship between packaging. So I want to package 12-ounce bottles of beer, and in this case, don't worry about my old data here. It's just my data doesn't move forward in time like you and I do. So in April, I'm going to be wanting to package 1,600 units, happens to be cases. And to be able to do that, I need to start fermenting. And to be able to ferment, I need to brew. So there's a relationship between these that the system is making suggestions on your behalf. And at some point, the system finds you're going to be short of something. In this case, it found that I was going to be short of these packaged beers. And I want to talk for just a minute about how it comes up with that information. Those are referred to as planned orders. This is where the system is finding shortages that I need to take action on. A lot of them are really old, just because my data is old and I can move my date back if I really wanted to. But these are the ones we were focused on just a minute ago. So this 1,600 represents this number here. Know that when I interact with the data, in this case I clicked a box that said firmed, it went from red to black. The point I'm trying to make here is that as I tell the system that I'm planning to do something, I can visually see the effect of that on the screen. So I told the system, I see that 1,600 and I'm planning to do it. Now I can see that represented on the screen. The idea behind that is if somebody put in a new sales order that you weren't expecting or you hadn't already looked at, this might go from 1,600 black to 1,800 red. And so I go, wait a second, I need to go look at the red. So it's a little bit like, kind of like playing whack-a-mole a little bit, in that when data starts to change. So basically we're talking about red and black, and the importance of that is that the system can tell you when you're going to be short of something without you having to go look at all these details. So it would just show up as red if there's a new planned order in that time period.